In this video, we're going to take a look at the pick rate and ban rate of heroes at the highest level of competition in Marvel Rivals. So let's dive right into it. So what I've done is that I've taken the 5 most recent games of 10 of the top players in the world right now, the ones that allow us to actually view their profiles, and I've compiled the heroes that were picked, but also the ones that were banned in those games. I've also taken into consideration that some of these players might be grouping up together and playing as a duo or a 3-stack, for example, and so I've eliminated any overlapping games. I've not counted the bans twice, in other words, for those ones, of course. The gameplay here in the back is actually Saipe playing Mantis, so enjoy that while we get into the top picks here. So number 1 spot goes to Magneto at 16% pick rate, Luna at 8% pick rate, and Mantis at 6% pick rate. This shouldn't be too surprising. These are all really good heroes. Luna and Mantis have extremely powerful ults and are great healers in general, and Magneto is a fantastic tank character. Now do bear in mind that in higher elo, each team is actually allowed to ban 2 heroes, so we'll get into that in just a second, but here are a few surprising picks. Hulk was picked at 8%. This is a little surprising because he was ranked pretty low on people's tier lists initially. Next, Iron Man was actually picked at 6%. Also very surprising because he was also ranked very low on people's tier lists initially. Now again, as I mentioned, a lot of this has to do with what is available to pick in the first place because of the bans. So let's get into the ban rate, which might be a bit more telling. And we can start with the obvious ones. Hawkeye was banned 54% of the time, and Hela was banned 44% of the time. This is probably not too surprising to you. These are 2 of the most powerful DPSs in the game and are often going to be banned. That being said, what I was surprised to see was that while Psylocke is banned at 26% of the time, Wolverine is also banned just as much, followed by the Hulk at 24%. That was a little surprising, especially considering again that the Hulk was ranked very low on people's initial tier lists, and Wolverine was ranked the worst character in the entire game by pretty much everyone unanimously. Lo and behold, in the highest level of competition, he's banned 26% of the time right now. Of course, another thing to keep in mind here is that in these higher levels of play, oftentimes people are banning heroes based on who they see on the enemy team. For example, a very obvious example here again might be that if you see Spider-Man being banned, odds are Necros is probably on the other team. Another very common one was that I saw some Buckys being picked in these higher tier games, and there were a couple of bans for Bucky. When I looked into it, surprise, surprise, of course, every single game where Bucky was played, except for one, was played by Wanted, a known Cassidy player in Overwatch who's now, of course, transitioned into playing Bucky or Winter Soldier on Marvel Rivals. And then pretty much every game where Winter Soldier or Bucky was banned was because Wanted was on the enemy team. So, of course, at the highest level of competitive play, unsurprisingly so, the bans have a lot to do with getting your opponent off of their comfort pick. And so, of course, at the highest level, the pick rate has more to do with what is simply available than it has to do with what is objectively the best in every single scenario. Now, one thing that I'll note is that while Doctor Strange is very highly rated by most players, he was neither the most picked or the most banned, which is kind of interesting. So he was banned about 16% of the time, which is still fairly high, but nothing like even Wolverine, who was banned 26% of the time. And in terms of pick rate, Doctor Strange had about a 2% pick rate, and he wasn't banned that often. So that was kind of surprising because he's usually rated or considered to be the best tank in the game right now. However, Magneto was picked more often than him, Hulk was picked more often than him, and also banned more often than him, which is quite telling when a character is banned more often and is also still picked more often than another one. So I just found that pretty interesting, that while players rate Doctor Strange very highly and consider him to be the best tank in the entire game, that he was not picked that often, even though he was available to be picked more often than not. So I just wanted to add that as well. That being said, please again take this with a grain of salt. The sample size here is fairly small. My goal is to do this once a month going forward, and I'd love to make the sample size larger for the next iteration. That being said, that's going to depend on whether or not you, the viewer, enjoyed this. If you think this is helpful, if you like this video, please consider dropping a like and subscribing to my channel. It's going to help me a lot. It's also going to give me the signal that this is an enjoyable and helpful video, and that you are interested in this type of content. And so please let me know if that is the case. Also, I do stream on Twitch almost every single day, so please feel free to drop by and say hello there. I'll be making a lot more Marvel Rivals content going forward, and if there's anything in particular that you would like me to cover on this channel, please do let me know. I am happy to take any recommendations, suggestions, or ideas. And with that said, I will see you in the next one. Later.